Good evening, everybody. In the absence of our chair and vice chair, whose vice chair is out sick tonight, I've been asked to run tonight's meeting. So welcome everybody to the February 12th Oshkosh, or excuse me, I looked at the wrong. We're going to accept the February 12th. The April 9th Oshkosh Parks Advisory Parks Board meeting. Can we have the roll call, please?
Davis, Dearth,
Here.
Herman,
Here.
Kaufman,
Here.
Miller, Rule, Schuessler, Wohler.
So we have 5, correct? And we have 2 openings on the board? 1.
We have one current opening, correct?
Okay, thank you. All right, moving ahead with our agenda. Approval of the February 12th, 2018 minutes. We did not meet in March. Are there any additions or corrections to the February 12th minutes? Otherwise, I'll entertain a motion and a second to accept the minutes as mailed out.
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. All right, approved. Next will be citizen statements. These are items not listed on the agenda. They're limited to 5 minutes, must address items that are not listed on the meeting agenda, are limited to issues that have an impact on the city of Oshkosh and the Advisory Parks Board, may address at a future meeting, and must not include endorsements of any candidates or other electioneering. You require more time, please inform the chair at the beginning of your presentation. So is there anybody from the public that wish to make any statements to the Parks Board? This would be on any issues, like I said, that are not on tonight's agenda. Okay, doesn't look like there's anybody. We'll go to new business. The first one is accept parkland dedication for development on property located at 3420 West 9th Avenue. It's going to be known as the Pickard Estate Subdivision. I'll turn it over to Parks Director Mauer for a presentation on it.
Thank you, Steve. There has been a slight change to the information that I sent in your packet late last week. As I had stated in my memo, we were still working with the developer a little bit after Tuesday's Plan Commission meeting. This item did go to the Plan Commission last Tuesday, and there was some discussion by the Plan Commission as well as staff regarding the location of the dedicated parkland, as well as the amount of the parkland that was proposed at the time. Since then, and I've handed out to you at your stations, are an updated plat. What we have asked, again, at the direction of some of the Plan Commission members, but also throughout the process the last year or so, we've been hearing a number of comments that the city needs to continue to acquire parkland. When the developer had a 61-lot subdivision that was being proposed, he was looking to dedicate approximately 1.38 acres, which was just short of what was required by the current ordinance. As I had stated in my memo, he was required based on 61 units to dedicate 1.54 acres. What we have since done is asked that he include one additional lot. So on the new plat, you'll see that I believe it was old lot number 21, I believe, was added to the parkland. So at this point, the subdivision would go down to 60 lots. Based on 60 lots, the parkland ordinance requires 1.51 acres of parkland. With this dedication, he is up to 1.66 acres of dedication. So he's actually over his dedication. According to the ordinance, we can request above and beyond what the proposed development would require for parkland. But what we would need to do is work out a acceptable purchase price for that additional property. Again, based on the Plan Commission comments, I felt it was appropriate to go in that direction. What we would do if the Park Board does decide that this evening that we would like to go ahead as proposed with the parkland, this item is on the Common Council agenda for tomorrow evening, and they are waiting for a recommendation from the board. What we would do is work out an agreeable price between us and the developer on approximately 0.15 acres of that lot, old lot 21. Again, I won't get into purchase price at this point because that has not been determined or discussed with the developer. But just to give you an idea, that money, if you recall, in some of the developments in the past and years ago, we do have a fee in lieu of land dedication. So we do have a fund within the city for the potential purchase of parkland. Just to give you an idea, the fund balance in that fund is approximately $365,000. So we do have available funding to go ahead with that purchase. In my memo, I did also indicate that we had some discussion about the location of the parkland. Both staff as well as the plan commission. I think initially we would have preferred that it was a little more centrally located for homes that are developed on the north portion of this subdivision. And then also looking down the road, sorry, I didn't get to the map, but on the map on the screen where Stacy has the cursor, that's essentially the property. But it does not go all the way to Clairville. I believe that's about 10 acres. 10 acres on the western portion right there that is not part of this development that we assume down the road sometime in the future would come into the city and develop as well. Again, it's only 10 acres, so assuming that there would be minimal park acreage that would need to be dedicated because it would be very limited on the number of dwelling units that would be developed there. So at this point, I am comfortable recommending the existing park location as well as size. The developers are here to answer any questions you might have as well as myself.
Anybody have any questions of what Mr. Mauer presented? And would you like to make a statement or have any input? Okay. All right, thank you. Sounds like, from what I can see from the discussion with the planning commission and everything, looks like this is a well thought out addition to our housing, and will provide some opportunity for kids and youth in the area to, and it is a public park, so that's another good thing. And we need, as we found out in the park study, outdoor comprehensive plan, we do need more parkland in the city of Oshkosh per our size, and obviously this will add to people living in Oshkosh, we hope, and that, so. Take a minute or so if you have any questions.
I know one of the questions that came up at the plan commission is what is a comparable size park that we currently have in the inventory? Just to give you an idea, West Algoma Park, which is just down the street from Mary Jewel, that park is about 1.8 acres. Stegbauer Park, which is at 6th in Idaho and has the ball diamond, play equipment, and basketball court, that is about 1.8 acres. So those gives you a general idea what the size of the park may be.
I just have one question, and I don't think you can answer at this point, but maybe the developer can. Are you looking at playground equipment in this park, or what are you, is that up to us?
That would be our
To
decision.
put our, okay, that's up to us. So would they just dedicate the space and we put it in our plan to develop it? and
Correct.
Things like that?
Yes,
And
if
then based on the size of the acreage, we would kind of determine what we would probably put in there. So we'd work with what, probably Rutler or whoever we would have on at that time?
Correct. We would come up with a master
And
plan.
do
for the
we,
park.
in that master plan, I guess just a Q&A is there usually a timeline that we want to see something developed, or how you plan when we've had previous developments like this?
This is really only, I think, the second development since we've been here, so about 8 years, because the economy is starting to pick up. What we would do is we're just getting into our capital improvement plan. It is due from our department in the next month or two, so we would start inserting into there some time and some dollars to allocate for developing here. So we'd have to prioritize it along with our other CIP items.
All right, very good.
Can I ask with the existing barns and silos and all that stuff, how does that play into a park, and who's responsible for that when it becomes a park?
That's, those facilities either have been demolished or will be demolished at the developer's cost. When it's turned over to the city, the ordinance spells out how the land must be finished graded and seeded, so that it's turned over to us in a condition that can be developed. So that's all spelled out in the ordinance, and I believe the silo has come down already, is that correct?
Yep.
And so that's being currently worked on.
I guess one other question I have is, well, that will be surveyed out and survey marked, so we don't have an issue like we had at, was it 44th Parallel Park, where that little piece of land was
Yep.
kind of overused or something? I mean,
Yeah, I think,
will there be some way of making sure that it doesn't get used up by something else.
Yeah, I think that's something we would like to do. Maybe we put in corner posts and we have GPS coordinates and be able to locate those, or even going out there and putting just split rail corner fence posts in to delineate where the parkland is located.
Any other questions? Otherwise, I'll entertain a motion to accept the dedication of the parkland to the city of Oshkosh. Okay, we'll take a roll call vote.
Davis. Girth.
Yes.
Herman.
Aye.
Kaufman. Miller. Rule. Schussler. Wohler. Motion passed 5-0.
All right, next up is presentation by Bill Sturm, our forester, on a 5-year tree pruning schedule for the city of Oshkosh. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you, Steve. We've been maintaining a GIS inventory of all the trees that we manage throughout the community for about the last 8 years. And every year we keep everything updated. Since we kind of went into a more modern mapping strategy, we thought it would be a great idea to develop some tree pruning zones throughout the city. Currently, we manage a little over 10,000 street trees throughout the community. So, in order to be systematic in our pruning, we decided to kind of map those areas so that we could do a 5-year maintenance plan on all trees within the city. And so our GIS folks worked with us and tried to block out areas of the city with our existing inventory information and try to develop kind of equal sized blocks so that we would have essentially around 2,000 or so trees in each area. The inventory has been ongoing, but this is the first year that we've actually implemented a tree pruning schedule. So we were very successful in the implementation of our 2018 areas. We had approximately a little over 1,900 trees in the area, and we had very good weather to do tree pruning work with limited snow, and the guys were able to stay on it pretty extensively. So about 3 weeks ago, we completed our 2018 pruning area already, so we're feeling pretty good about that. Through that survey, we also look for trees that are in need of removal or have some other insect or disease issue that would warrant removal. So throughout this program, we've also been doing some removals and that sort of thing as well. So it's been going pretty well. We've got everything mapped out so that if citizens call with routine pruning requests, we can give them a guideline of when we would next be in their area. If there's issues that people are having with something that is hanging or obstructing traffic or a hazard, we'll still come out and take care of those, immediately or shortly after the call, so that we're not going to just determine that you got to wait 5 years for us to get there, but we'll take care of anything that is urgent, as we always have. So. If anybody's got any questions, Stacy has maps in the office. We'll likely also have this on our website eventually as well, so that citizens can refer to that information and see when we'll be in their area next. I don't know if anyone's got any questions. I'd be happy to entertain.
All right. Looks like you're in quite a few of our neighborhood associations from the map and stuff, which is good.
Yeah. There's and of course we've been adding a lot of trees in some of those association areas too. So that's really increased our inventory. And there were in this year's cycle we've had a lot of young trees. So the best time to get those pruned is when they're in those first few years of growth, so that we can train them for structure and get them looking good, so we don't have to do quite as much work in the future on them.
Okay, and I know Stacy sent out to the board members late this afternoon about an event you're having at the arena, if you want to just mention that briefly.
Yeah, I can. I was going to bring that up in my report a little later on too, but I guess I can do it now
Sure.
if you're okay with
That
that. We're going to be celebrating our annual Arbor Day on Thursday, April 26th at 9 a.m. This year, the event will be taking place at the Menominee Nation Arena. This is a new site for us. What we do is work with University of Wisconsin, the utility companies, and DNR. Because all these folks have an interest in the Oshkosh area, we have the award presentation through the National Arbor Day for all Tree City USA, Tree Campus USA, and the utility category Tree Line USA for Wisconsin Public Service, and then American Transmission Company. So we'll be having our event to recognize all the parties that have done good work over many years in trying to maintain the trees here in our community. So it's always great for us to all get together. This year we've got a little added twist to it. With the arrival of the Wisconsin herd in Oshkosh, we're going to do our tree planting and program at the Menominee Nation Arena. Last year, American Transmission Company developed a program called Trees for Threes, which essentially, whenever the Bucks score a three-point play, a tree will be donated to plant within the community. So last year, the city was awarded $2,500 to plant trees here in Oshkosh through American Transmission Company and the Milwaukee Bucks partnership. So we're actually going to do a program where we're planting right at the arena site this year, so that'll be kind of fun. We're going to include some trees on the terrace along South Main Street, so should be kind of interesting. We're still working on some of the details yet. We're hoping to get some folks from the Bucks to come up to making a little more entertaining for everyone. So you've all got that in your memo, so hopefully you can be there if you have time.
And if you haven't gone, it's a great event. I've been able to go, I think, 5 or 6 years of my time on the council, and usually there's students that come from one of the area schools, and it's just a really neat program. Recognizes not only the city, but UW Oshkosh and the partnerships that we all have here in Tree City, and it's a great event, so if you can make it, that'd be great. Thanks, Bill.
thank
I
you.
thought I just rolled that in, made it easier for you.
Yeah,
As long as you had
great.
the floor. Okay, I guess we're back. The last thing on our new business is update on the 2018 capital improvement budget projects for the city.
Thanks, Steve. I'm going to have Chad's going to just do a brief presentation on some of the projects so that the public and the board knows we had about $1.3 million worth of capital improvement projects approved for 2018. So we've got some pretty extensive projects that we're working on and will continue to work on this year and into next year. So we wanted to give some updates on that because it does affect a number of our parks and our facilities. So Chad will go through that. And then we've got a number of other projects that may not be in our CIP, but part of the Great Neighborhoods Initiative and other projects that have been started and not finished. And Chad and I can touch on those a little bit in our reports as well. So I'll turn it over to Chad.
Okay, thanks, Ray. I think we're very fortunate with what we have to be able to incorporate some of these projects for the upcoming year, but if you can tell from the screen above, we'll start with number one with our Menominee Park Tennis Court reconstruction project, where bids are going to be due on May 1st with hopefully completion by September 1st if weather cooperates. But what this project will include is right now we have an existing 5 courts at that location. We'll be consolidating down in order to renovate, to have 4 pickleball courts established there with 3 tennis courts down there. This will be a complete restructuring of the courts and paving, striping, the whole works. Fencing, the only thing that we're not including right now is new lighting at this time. May look to do some additional conduit if price comes in for future lighting renovations, and also there's a potential alternate for lighting to include the pickleball courts down there, because it's kind of a little different configuration what's there, but pretty much the footprint would be very similar, but with a few revisions to it. So that'll be exciting. We do have nets up there right now for people, or we'll be having nets up, I should say, for people to play in the short time until things kick off here with the construction. But looking forward to that taking place, as those courts are well overdue for that. It'll be a great enhancement to Menominee Park. So,
Just one question off of that, because that tennis court will be down for an extended period of time. Where else in the city can they go and play tennis?
Well, we have multiple locations. We have a single court at Stevens Park, which is a neighborhood park. Tech Miller, there's 2 courts. West Haven has 2. South Park has 3. I mean, I'm sure the schools would allow play up at their locations as well, in north and west, and 44th Parallel would be our other site with 2 courts on it as well. So there's other locations to play, and those courts are all in good standing. South Park being our oldest, but the other ones have been renovated within the past 5 to 8 years.
If I can make a recommendation off of that, maybe as we start that project, we could do a short press release and maybe list the other tennis courts. 'Cause I know the rec department probably has their program set up based on the courts being down, so they're probably at other locations, but I know there's a lot of people that do play tennis, and so if we could do a press release close to that time, that way we got it out there in the community. And that could be on our website too, city website. Thank you.
I'll kind of go through, but is there any questions on the court project at all offhand? Okay. South Park play equipment and surfacing and perimeter walk. If you've been by South Park right now, we have everything excavated from the old site to date. And going to be meeting with the contractor actually on Wednesday to start setting up the outline of the facility to see what we can do in the spacing there. South Park had a very large use zone to that existing playground. This will be condensed a little bit in size due to the being adjacent to the inclusive playground, that there'll be adequate play areas for doing, but it'll follow suit very nicely with the area to give kids another alternative to play that's, you know, a little bit more challenging than the inclusive site. We decided to move it a little closer to shelter 2 to have a little separation and follow in sync with the master plan for South Park. That hopefully in the trifecta, I call it the splash pad, the inclusive, and this playground, if there's a future plaza or an area to congregate in between the two, can be incorporated in the future, but hasn't been funded to date. I think some more additional planning needs to come into that. But Burke, BCI Burke actually got this bid going forward. This will be the first Burke playground components that our community's had in quite a few years. So it'll be interesting in working with them again. I've worked with them in other communities, but having their components locally here will be nice as well. So, like I said, the equipment's gone already. Site's excavated. It's kind of blocked off with all the other construction going on with the parking lot project and things of that nature. Everything will be completed in a similar fashion and open to the public at the given time. Even though there'll be a lot of restoration work around there, we'll have to fence off in order to restore and allow proper seating to take place. It'll be a nice addition here in the long run, and also provide a little bit more green space around shelters for the restroom area and that in the long run too. So it'll be nice for events. But yeah, anyone have any questions on this project at all or concerns?
So just to clarify, when that is all installed, it'll be accessible at that time too?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. The rubber's poured in place, rubber surfacing will be very clean and friendly to work with. So I think the public will enjoy that and the cleanliness of it in the long run.
Chad, can you just give the Parks Board and the public an idea what we're spending to rejuvenate the wood mulch in that playground every year?
Oh, that one, if it'd be every other year we'd be looking to do this. I mean, I'd touch up some areas, but that usually takes 250 yards a crack to do that. So you're looking around $8,000, $7,000 to $8,000 in mulch every other year for one play site. With the poured in place surfacing going through, it has a good 10-year like warranty or guideline to go from, with limited areas to restore. So that's a big cost savings in our end. Even though the initial cost is up there a little bit, it's just in the long run is going to save us a lot for restoration and maintenance going forward. So to date, we have gone through just about $21,000 in mulch to get our playgrounds up to speed, and we still have about 6 more sites to get through. We're going to be trying to do another 400 yards here within their 350 yards within the next couple weeks to get those up to speed here too before the season kicks in. Due to the conditions this year, it's been the first year we've been able to, as dry as it's been, to get into sites to work and do things. So that's been a blessing in disguise earlier this spring or so far. so. Okay, moving on to the next one, the Fugelberg Boat Launch Projects. Just met today for our pre-bid walkthrough for the restroom renovation. Much like our other sites that we've had, we've just finished or finishing up Tech Miller Park, but Fugelberg Boat Launch is going to go through the same for ADA compliance. This facility was a little bit newer, so I'm hoping the costs come in a little less than what we expected, but the compliance issues will be met going through. The fixtures will be consistent. The cleanliness will be easier for us to maintain here in the long run. So definitely looking that, based on what preliminaries with the contractors, they felt that our time frame to be done by the 31st could be met easily. So I'm hoping that'll be open earlier for the boaters and people using the launches early on. In the meantime, we do have portalet down there for people to use for the launch. In addition, with the parking lot lighting to go through, there's some money set aside to help with that and off the building, which would probably fall in sync with a little bit of the launch if we put an additional launch to the south side of the existing building to go into that area where that will need some additional lighting to help with that. So until we get that plan going, I could see that being deferred a little bit till later fall when we get into that project for completion. So needless to say, Fugelberg will have some more improvements down there. Maybe in the long run here, we might look at some additional things with the break wall and the draws for boats getting in and out of that launch in the long run. So, any questions on Fugelberg? Spanbauer Field Improvements. As you can see from the parcel map attached to this, that, and some of the concerns we've had over the past with home run balls and things going into the neighbors' houses and things of that nature in the past. And the tired facility, it is with the fencing, the perimeter areas. The actual field is in fairly decent shape, but it's just the amenities around it that need some improvement to work with as well. We've decided to move forward with making this a youth field going forward. So you're going to see the dimensions of this shortened down to a 200-foot radius where, I don't know if I can, that's right, this goes really fast, but the new field will fall. You'll have a normal arc inside this whole area to work from. I'm sorry this delays, so it's tough for me to do. So you won't see this, rapid jag right up to the sidewalk perimeter and stuff like that. It'll look like a normal field and play like a normal field, but be set up for youth programs to work with. And when we're talking youth, your youth slow pitch, softball, maybe some fast pitch softball, little tykes for t-ball, things of that nature that might work out where you can play and utilize this more frequently. Due to the little bit of a decline in adult league programs and the field distances, we felt this would be a better use for this facility going forward. Then we can also take that into consideration when the REITs complex gets considered for redesign for the adult league programs that take place down there, and hopefully have them in one location at some point. So this will take place hopefully in late August after the leagues and everything are completed. But there's gonna be a lot of reseeding involved, so it'd be nice to get that down so it can be playable by next spring, late spring, early summer, if things work out well from that end. But definitely looking forward to the improvements through there and seeing the use in the long run. So. Riverwalk Renovations behind the Leach Amphitheater. I don't know if you recall, but that original section was done, in 2009? So 2005 and 6, right behind the Leach there. And if you remember correctly, when we went through, we did an analysis of the back where the seawall, where we put the temporary boat tie-ups on top of the surfacing there to work from. There's some separation in the concrete between the cap of the seawall and the concrete, and it's causing a hazard to go through just from years of settling from that end. So that's going to be reconstructed to get that so there isn't that issue going forward. I don't know how the engineering plans will come out, if we'll be able to do tie-ups along there to fix to the wall or not. I think that needs to be determined. No, that will not be allowed, so disregard that. But hopefully it'll straighten out the rest of that sidewalk through the rest of that behind the Leach there, so we don't have those hazards in the long run. And this will take place after the leach season is done too, or later part of August, probably September from that end, when things slow down there after Waterfest is complete. And a couple other events we have in September, so it'll fall together, so. And that's it for CIP projects, for large ones going in, and I think when we get in the reports, I can just fill you in on some other ones that we have going that are smaller. So,
All right, any questions of Chad? Thank you, Chad. Ray, anything else on the projects?
I just want to say how important it is when we bring those CIP lists to this board, that we do prioritize those. The council and city manager do take those into consideration. And as you can see by some of the projects, they are looking and listening to the needs that we have. I think one of the bigger commitments they have had for the last probably 5 to 7 years has been restroom updating. We heard that loud and clear throughout our last comprehensive plan update. We continue to hear it, so I think we're doing a good job of trying to do one of those a year. But again, I think it's a compliment to the councils to put some of the funding into what we have requested. Again, if you recall, the city borrows about $11.4 million a year, and almost $4 million goes to road construction or road reconstruction. So there's about $7 million worth of battling for the other departments. So I think, again, the council is looking at our list pretty seriously. So we'll be getting into capital improvement planning already, probably next month. So this was kind of a whetter for your appetite for CIPs. So.
All right, thank you, Ray. Next on the agenda is old business. Anybody have any old business from earlier this year? The only thing I'm going to add is tomorrow night's council meeting. The council will be making the final vote on deciding what to do with the remaining acreage of the lake shore, and giving probably direction to staff to where we go with that recommendation tomorrow night. So that's on the agenda for tomorrow night. Any other old business? Otherwise, we'll move to the Parks Directors and staff reports. Back to Parks Director Miller.
Okay. The comprehensive outdoor recreation plan was approved by the council. I believe it was 2 weeks ago. Compliments to the board on the work that we put into that over the last year. You should have your final version, and for the public, there is a copy of the final version of our corp on the city website. If you go to the main page under departments, Parks Department, we'll have this document as well as our other park master plans for some of the other major community parks we have. South Park Lagoon and the associated work with that, just to give you an update, I believe they started to mobilize back onto the site this week and last week. The parking lot around shelter number 1, I believe we gave them a deadline that it needed to be completed by May 15th. So that is what we are assuming and hoping for. And then the overall project around the lagoons and everything is scheduled for completion July 1 roughly. You will see that following that, they're still going to have the fences are going to remain around the lagoon area, the major project area, because there's going to be turf that'll be planted and other things that need to get established. So even though the project will be completed around the lagoons, the security construction fence will remain for a period of time. We have worked with the rental groups and any special events that had planned to be in those areas. We've worked with them for some alternate locations. But we look forward to getting the new parking lot as well as all those projects completed there. As I said, we're starting to work on the next CIP, so we'll be bringing some of those projects and that information in the near future. That's it.
All right, thank you. Back to you, Chad.
Yeah, I think just to highlight a couple things in regards to the CIP, but there's funding set aside for the neighborhood associations that fall in part to some park projects that we're currently working on. One being the Tech Miller Athletic Field renovation. We'll be reconstructing that. We actually have accepted bids for the fencing and for the field replacement. We'll be purchasing all the materials going into the field, but the contractor will be installing those. Looking forward to that take place here within the next couple weeks if things hold out. Weather-wise, that would be great, as Tech Miller is a very wet park, or can be very wet. So I'm hoping that we can get in there and meet the time frame in order to get that schedule decent for the season ahead here for people to use. CSAN and Sailorland, we have some renovation work to do down there yet in regards to restoration, with seating, some landscaping that we're going to do along the existing sidewalk up to the area. Bill's crew replanted a tree last year. I think it was a bur oak that was transplanted last year as well. But that project with the landscaping is going to be in conjunction with an Eagle Scout project. I'd like to try to incorporate them to help out in these areas. So looking forward to this maybe taking place in just after school's out. It's that sometime in that time frame. So that'll be fun to see here in the long run. So also at Stevens Park, there's a few outstanding projects there in regards to the shelter. Renovation, not the renovation, but putting some concrete underneath the existing shelter there. Doing some work for just helping them with a community garden for exposure and some park signage that's being placed down there for tree identification. So a couple of nice amenities going to be added in there relatively soon as well. So that's with the neighborhood associations. I think some other things that have been happening. For us is just the zoo maintenance building continues to work as we have time. Just the restrooms and shelters that we already have shelter reservations for Menominee Park scheduled for this coming Saturday with the late spring. I hope things will be coming together here with restrooms and such things of that nature here over the course of the next couple weeks. Athletic fields, we're going to be trying to get on those here relatively soon as people would like to get out and use them. The amusement area, zoo, they all open May 5th, which doesn't seem that far out already, so that'll be hitting us. Administratively, a few things with athletic field schedulings that we're trying to get done. Seasonal hirings, if you know people looking for seasonal jobs, to definitely look on our city website to apply for our various areas that we have would be appreciated. It hasn't been a great, I guess there hasn't been a lot of applications coming in to date. We've been kind of going through people as fast as we can in order to get our crew set up for the existing year, so that's been a challenge. Couple things coming up just for spring cleanup to make you aware of. We're working with Hands on Oshkosh. I think I sent out 5 locations for requests for cleanup for doing that, and that'll be on April 20th? Does that sound right? I can't remember, 21st, April 21st in regards to that, but they're going to do Red Arrow and Rainbow Park would be the 2 that they're going to help us out with cleaning up. So that'll be on that day. And then UW Stevens Point, I think I mentioned at a previous meeting that they are developing an interpretive media program for Menominee Park Zoo with different signage, and I'm looking forward to that presentation here on May 7th. It's a document that we can work from going forward here in the future for different items in the zoo that's concurrent with our master plan. So that'll be a nice thing to see in the long run. In regards to some of the things for revenues facilities, I don't have all the numbers today. I'd like Jenny to give her report on Egg Sighting Day and Breakfast with a Bunny, but I do know we had a very good turnout, even despite the weather. Breakfast with the Bunny, I think, did its best it has over the years so far. So it's entertaining. I know she puts a lot of work into those details, and it does raise good dollars for the zoo going forward. So she'll have a better report. She's actually leaving for vacation this afternoon, so and she can get that in next month. So that's all I have to date so far, but if you have any questions, I'll be taking those if you have something.
Well, one thing I know that Chad forgot to mention was the work he's done for Jenny to get an office at the senior center, and the work they did in the fitness center at the senior center for the seniors. I've heard from several seniors. I appreciate the work that's being done at the senior center and some of the changes, improvements. A lot of people may not remember that the senior center falls under the parks jurisdiction, I guess you could say. And so some work has been done by Chad and his staff during the winter months at the senior center. Much appreciated. So. All right, Bill, I know you gave your report, but there's probably got to be something or more you got.
I'll add a couple other things in there. My staff has been also getting some of the spring cleanup work done. We've been working on the roundabouts and traffic islands, pruning some of the shrubs. We're going to do some mulching in some of those areas here too, just to try to contain the weeds a little better. When those areas were built, they had very minimal mulch there, and so a lot of it has been decaying. So we're going to be working on that here during the next few weeks. preparing a lot of the equipment out at the cemetery, getting all the mowers and everything ready to roll. We're hoping to start doing some initial work out there toward the end of the month, so a lot of our spring cleanup, which shouldn't be too bad there on that site. And then we're rolling into tree planting, so we've got everything kind of lined up and ready to roll. The trees are going to start coming in tomorrow. Needs to dry out a little bit before we get that started, but we're hoping to begin planting here later in the month. So.
And how many trees are we planning on planting this year?
I've got about 100 over requests for our spring cycle, and then we'll also be doing another fall planting in cooperation with the neighborhood Great Neighborhoods program. So applied for a grant to hopefully add a few more in additionally as well. So so that'll be a fall planting.
Right, very good. Well, that's it for staff reports, other than we should really ask our administrative assistant if she has anything she wants to add in her reports, because she takes all the phone calls. She's probably issues most of the boat launch permits and things like that, so anything to add?
Well, boat launch permits are available for purchase either at our site, at City Hall, or at Hergert's or Fox River Bait and Tackle. One thing to note this year is that now they are on the windshield, and we're doing that so that we're in line with the county as well as with the city, across the street.
Sanitation.
The sanitation department sticker, the yard waste sticker is on the windshield as well. So getting some feedback on that, and that'll continue to get fine-tuned. But as Chad said, reservations start this weekend, so if you have any reservations for the year, they're definitely filling up quickly, but give me a call. It's what I'm here to do.
Thank you. Maybe we should add her to the report. Go ahead, Ray, you had something else, Dan?
I did forget one item that we're working on the Roosh Park master plan. Roosh Park is located over by Carl Traeger School. We've had 2 public input meetings so far, and as a result of those, there's been some major discussions around some trail lighting on the existing trail for security and safety purposes. And then there's some discussion about possibly adding some outdoor exercise equipment. Those seem to be the 2 points that that we're hearing a lot of feedback on. So what we've done is put a POCO survey question out to the community. So if you have an interest in voicing your opinions on Roosh Park Master Plan, again, we encourage you to sign up for POCO. Go to the city website under the hot topics, I believe, or on the city main page. You'll find POCO information. You sign up and you can answer that question. So we're looking for public input on that item. And I would expect that survey will continue through this week, possibly next week, and then we'll be having another public input meeting at the Carl Traeger School. And I would expect in the next month or two, we'll bring that plan back to this board for discussion and approval. So thank you.
All right. Is there any other business that board members would like to bring up? Otherwise, don't forget, you can put agenda items down as meetings come up. If something comes up or somebody contacts you as a Parks Board member, or you're talking to someone and you get an idea or something comes up that you think it's appropriate to discuss at the Parks Board, let Ray or Chad know, and we'll get it on the agenda so it can be discussed. So with nothing else, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn the April meeting.
A motion.
A second?
I'll second.
All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We're adjourned. Thank you very much.